What's up, Transit? How are y'all doing today? Man, it is so good to be here. Y'all look awesome for being here on a Sunday morning. Well, hey, my name is Ashlyn, for those of you that I have not met yet, and I have the amazing privilege of being on staff here at Transit. So I get to eat, sleep, breathe Transit all the time. It's the best job ever. And fun, yeah, okay, you can clap for that. And fun fact for y'all, this is my first time ever speaking in Transit. So if there are any first-timers in the room that have never been to Transit before, we're in the same book. We're both doing something new this morning, so I think we're already BFFs. And for those of y'all that have been coming to Transit for so long, welcome back. I am super glad to have you here today. So today we are going to be wrapping up this series on space and how to get more of it. But I want to give you guys a quick little recap at first. So the first week, you guys learned that space increases as trust is earned, and that we have to actually lean into our authorities as opposed to pulling away with them in order to build a better relationship with them and in order to build trust with them. And then last week, you guys got to hear Kevin talk about how we were actually called by God to honor our parents. And it's not just a calling, but there's actually a promise that comes along with that calling, and that promise is that our life is going to be better. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy, it doesn't mean it's going to be fun all the time, and it doesn't mean it's going to be pain-free, but it's going to be better. And so this week, I want to kick off the third part of the series, but I want to pause here for a second. I want to remind you guys, just like Kevin said last week, when I talk about the word parents today, I want you to know that this word includes your mom, your dad, it could be your grandparents, it could be your aunt, uncle, or really whatever adult you have that is currently taking care of you at home right now. That is what I'm referring to when I talk about parents, because I know we all come from different homes and different stories, and all of you are included in this. So when I say parents, keep that in mind. Now, I'm super excited to be here with y'all today and super excited to be talking about this, but I'm sure there's some of you out in this room that are like, Ashlyn, like the third week on this series about our authorities and honoring our parents, like, come on, like you just don't get it. It's so hard. And I want to tell you, I do get it. I know middle school is hard because middle school, you're almost in this in-between phase of life right now where you might feel a little bit stuck. And here's why. With middle schoolers, you guys are starting to think for yourselves for the first time and actually process what's going on in the world around you. You're also starting to finally have a little bit of different schedules than the rest of your family because you're getting invited to sports games, or maybe it's a school dance, or maybe just to hang out with your friends on the weekend. For a lot of you, you're getting a phone for the first time, or you're getting access to a social media account. Maybe that's Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, and you're starting to get all of these super cool things. All of these amazing opportunities. But along with these opportunities, I think you'd say, okay, Ashlyn, yeah, I have all those things, but I don't have any authority over those things. I still have to ask my parents for permission every time I want to go hang out with a friend, or I want to go to this game, or maybe you even have to ask your parents' permission to get on this certain social media account. And so you feel stuck and you feel trapped. Well, I want to tell you guys a story about my middle school experience. When I was a middle schooler, it was just a cool thing to get a phone. And I'm not talking about smartphones. We didn't have iPhones, Androids, any of that at the time, but just a phone in general. And so I really wanted this one particular phone. It was called the LG NV3. And we're going to throw a picture of it here up on the screen. Yeah, you like it? Yeah, I thought so. This phone, guys, I thought was the absolute coolest thing ever. And what's even better than that is my parents actually surprised me with it for my birthday. No joke, I went to school that day and then came after class to my locker, opened it up, and the phone was literally waiting for me in my locker. Like, nothing is better than that. But as amped out of my mind as I was to get this phone right here, I also had some restrictions and some limitations that went along with it. So listen to this. I had a whopping 250 texts allowed per month. Now, for those of you that are in any group text right now, you probably get 250 texts per day, and I literally only had that for the entire month. And added onto that, I had to ask my parents' permission every single time I wanted to text someone. So, I mean, think about it. If there's like, a cute boy at school or whatever that I wanted to talk to and kind of slide into his text messages, I had to go tell my parents about it first in order to be able to even text him. So, I know what it's like to feel that pain of like, man, like I have this opportunity, but I don't have any authority over it. And here's the thing. I know each of you has something in your life that you've been super excited to do, and then you go and ask your parents about it, and maybe the answer isn't what you're expecting. Maybe the answer is no, or not now, or maybe, but that's not what you wanted to hear. You wanted to hear a yes to that. And in those moments, it becomes super easy for us to start questioning in our mind, okay, so why did my parents say no? Why don't they want me to have this thing or to do this thing? Like, don't they want what's best for me? And if we're not careful, we let ourselves spiral so far that we might even think that they're out to get us in some ways. And here's what happens. We end up becoming suspicious of our parents' motivations and our parents' intentions. Now, I'm sure you guys would say, now, Ashlyn, I don't think that they don't love me anymore, but it's more that I just don't think they understand me. I don't think that they get me. And that is a super hard place to be in. But here's the thing. I don't think this just applies to parents. I think it could apply to teachers, to coaches, to your friends. Any time in life when someone is doing something a little bit differently than you may want or you may desire, it's super easy to become suspicious of their motivations and of their intentions. But this isn't a new problem. This is just a human problem. And so it's like, well, okay, I'm faced with this problem. What am I going to do about it? Because I don't want to sit in suspicion and sit in frustration for the rest of my life. Well, I have good news for you guys. There's this guy named Paul, which if you've been at Transit before, you've heard us talk about Paul. If you've never been to Transit before, let me introduce you to Paul today. He is an amazing guy who actually wrote a lot of our Bible. And a lot of the Bible that he wrote were actually letters to different churches at the time. So he wrote this letter to a church in Corinth, and this book of the Bible is called 1 Corinthians, and I want to show you what Paul says in 1 Corinthians. He says, love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Now, if you look at these words, protects, trust, hopes, perseveres, these are all action words. You actually have to do something about it, and that's because love is not just an idea, and it's not just a feeling. It's so much more than that. It's an action and an active choice that you have to make each and every day. And Paul is saying that this love is what's going to help us combat that suspicion and that frustration. So I want to break it down for you guys. Let's look at the first word. Love always protects. Newsflash for y'all. If there are ever times when you feel like your parents are holding you back because they're not letting you do something or not letting you text that person or get on that social media account, it might actually be because they're trying to protect you. And in trying to protect you, they're actually showing you love. It's the opposite of what you think. You think that they're out to get you because they're limiting you, but they're actually protecting you. They're actually loving you. Paul goes on to say that love always trusts. And this word means to have a confidence in. So on y'all's end, you can have confidence in your parents and your teachers and your coaches and your friends that they actually care about you and they actually want what's best for you. Because if you're loving them, you're going to trust them and not doubt their intentions and their motivations. But Paul takes it a step farther, and I love this word. He goes on to say that love always hopes. And I want to define this word hope for y'all this morning. Hope is a confident belief in the unseen. A confident belief in the unseen. So yes, there are times when you're just not going to see it, you're not going to get it, you're not going to understand why your parents, teachers, coaches, whoever are making the decisions that they're making, and that's okay. You guys don't have to get it, but what you are called to do is to show love by showing hope and trust in that person that God has so evidently placed in your life. And then lastly, love always perseveres. Love always perseveres. And this word persevere means to not run away. It goes back to what we were talking about week 1. You're actually supposed to lean into your authorities and be willing to build a relationship with them as opposed to just running away from them and trying to push them out. Now, this isn't easy. It really, really is not, and I'm very aware of that. And it's because it's a choice. But this is what I believe Paul is telling us to do. He's telling us that love chooses trust over suspicion. Love chooses trust over suspicion each and every time. Now, I want to pause here, kind of step to the side, and talk about something. Just like Kevin mentioned last week, there are some of you in this room whose parents might not be honoring you well, Or maybe you really believe that you have reason to be suspicious of that parent or of that teacher or of that coach because of things that you're doing to you, to the point where you don't feel safe in your own home and you don't feel safe in your school. And I want to be very clear that what I'm talking about this morning, that does not apply in that scenario. That is a very, very different scenario. And if you are in that position, or even if you're just questioning if you're in that position, I want to encourage you guys to talk to your small group leaders about it. They are a safe place, and they are for you, and they love you, and they can help you process it and help you get help if you need to. So if that is you this morning, please talk to them after small group today. They would be more than happy to and more than honored to walk through this with you. Stepping back in, love choosing trust over suspicion. I want to help you guys visualize this, okay? So I'm going to need 2 volunteers with a raise of hands. Okay, you right down here, and then let's see, can I get a guy? You right, or let's do, you already came on the stage. You right there, dude, in the hoodie. If y'all can come up for me, I'm going to give you some signs here to hold. And this first sign says what we want. So these are the things that we desire in life, the yeses that we wish our parents would say. You want to come take this, bud? Come step right over here for me, right up front. This next sign says what they do. So this goes on to what your parents are doing, what your teachers, what your coaches are doing. Can you hold this for me? And come step right up next to him. Now I want you guys to look at this. When what we want lines up with what they do, when we want to go to a basketball game and our parents say yes, that's an amazing thing. We feel great inside. We're having a great time. But walk with me here. What happens when it starts to space farther and farther out? If you can stand on that yellow X and you can stand on that yellow X. What happens when all of a sudden there's this big gap in the middle? What do you guys think? This is what happens. We naturally fill this gap with suspicion because what people are doing and what we want, they don't line up. But this is what Paul is telling us, guys. This is what naturally happens, but we don't have to be locked into this. You guys have the ability and the control and the power to choose differently than this. You have the ability to choose trust over suspicion. Because there's going to be a gap here when what we want doesn't line up with what they do. There will be a gap. That is inevitable. But you guys have the ability to choose trust every single time. Thanks, y'all. Give it up for him. And so this is what I want to leave you guys with today. If you're not willing to make the choice to choose trust, suspicion is just going to be there. And I tell you, that is only going to produce tension and hurt and frustration in your relationships with the authorities in your life. But guys, God has so much better for you than that. He really, really does. So if you can choose, which I know it's hard, but if you can choose to put trust in that gap, then that is only going to strengthen and grow and protect those relationships. And as a result, bring you so much joy and joy to the other people around you. And that is what I want for you guys this morning. I want God's absolute best for you. And that's what he tells us in 1 Corinthians, is that love chooses trust over suspicion. So as you're getting ready to go to small group this morning, I want you guys to think about this one question on your way before you unpack it more. What do you wish your parents would say yes to? What do you wish your parents would say yes to? Let me pray for us. God, I thank you so much for transit. I thank you so much for these middle schoolers and these small group leaders, and just that we all got to be here today to be in community with each other and to worship and to learn more about you. And I ask that you would be with them as they go to small group today, that you would give them the courage and the confidence to be able to speak openly about what you are doing in their heart and in their life, and that they would have amazing conversation. And that the ones that may need to talk to their small group leaders later, that they would have the courage to do that and to tell them what is really going on at home, what is really going on at school. And then the other ones, that they would be willing to just come around each other as a small group and push each other to be better and push each other to trust more and push each other to love better. Because God, we only love because you loved us first and you love us so much. So I thank you so much for your goodness to us. I thank you so much for this amazing day. In your name I pray, amen.